I stayed for the mix he said was off. The alert blinked on our shared calendar at 2:18 p.m. Open studio 7:00:11:30 gain staging plus comp bus plus tape pass. I hovered over it long enough to hear the phantom click of a fader, and then the event evaporated as if the day had apologized. 2 minutes later, a text from Jonah. Session, off, singer sick, bored, sulking. I'll come home early, want me to grab soup. Read, I thumbed, yes, and set the phone face down on the lighting plot I kept threatening to finish for the museum. The phrase gained staging stayed in my mouth like a mint I hadn't earned. We've been together 7 years. Jonah rotates through serious hobbies the way other people rotate playlists. A winter of bicycle wheels, a spring of wood joints, the last year in a recording studio tucked into the back of a warehouse that used to sell knockoff sofas. He comes home with a halo of dust that isn't dust, smelling faintly of coffee, warm electronics, and a patience I don't always own. He says phrases I write down because I want them to be about more than sound. Don't punish a fader for telling the truth. Air is already help. The line wants air. We had a kind plan for the night. Soup, a dumb movie we'd half-watched, bed. At 6:11 the studio posted a story. The console lit like a city, 2 Newmans wearing their shock mounts like polite jewelry, the tape machine's reels the color of a sunset I trust, and a person whose posture I recognized even at that distance, Theo, flipping a patch cable with a practiced wrist. Overlay text, singer feels okay, we're on, bring patient ears. If they're on, we could swing by and say hi, I said, practicing a voice that wanted to be agendaless. For me it's off, Jonah said, knife careful on the cutting board. I don't have the margin. Which was either about the room or about us. Got it, I told the countertop. The part of me that calls itself prudence tied its boots in a bow it didn't mean. At 6:52 I was in the lot, composing the sort of administrative lie that only comforts the sender. Freight landed early. Running to sign, I wrote. He sent a thumbs up, which I resented for being reasonable. Inside, the air had the warm metal breath of machines that know they aren't gods. The live room smelled like agreeable carpet. The control room had 3 kinds of light that had made peace with one another. The console, a 32-channel affair that had seen better haircuts, sat like a promise that refused metaphor. A dozen people in headphones and hoodies were already doing the quiet choreography of sound. Coil a cable, set a stand, nod once, laugh without moving your face. Jonah arrived at 7:08 with his tote bag that says the line WANTS air. He wasn't alone. He walked with Theo in that way people walk with someone who knows where the step is, the practiced half-body of space that isn't flirting until it matters. He saw me, and did that 2 heartbeat step back, a little sabayarilo I've learned to expect, then placed a smile between us like a coaster. Tonight's agenda, said me, the producer, clapping once with the authority of someone who has chosen both naps and wars. Gain staging, a thoughtful comp on the bus, vocal takes if we get there, and a tape pass for grit before we start lying to ourselves. Rules, compression is a hug, not a punishment. EQ is a question, not a haircut. And if you need to gossip, not near the mics. If you need to sneeze, not near the mics. The room's laugh sounded like relief disguised as agreement. I followed Jonah with my eyes. He set his tote exactly where the floor knows his weight. Thea handed him a short XLR, then a pencil, then nothing, because sometimes the best help is leaving a gesture alone. Jealousy rose like a badly trained dog. I gave it a job. I held the door for a rolling case. I found foam windscreens in a drawer that wanted to be a junkyard. I untangled a cable that thought it was a metaphor. Signal check, me said into the talkback. A singer in the live room, Roxy, whose voice wears a coat made of all the bar stools in town, put on one ear of her headphones and said, "Hey," into the mic like the word might not forgive her. "We see you," me said. "Jonah on preamp 1, Theo on headphone mix. Greg, stop scrolling and be the drummer in your body." At the break, paper cups of something caffeinated, a box of donuts the color of permission, Jonah drifted toward me. "So you came anyway," he said, a sentence without a blade. "I was told observation is already half alignment," I said, stealing from another dome. "Also, you lied. Your voice is fine." "Clouds ditched the singer," he said. He glanced at Theo and then at the board. "And I wanted to be the version of me that learns without writing a report at home. Also, it's not the worst thing to let someone else correct my pressure. He has certain hands." The sentence lodged like a splinter I had earned. I used the truth I'd saved for this. "I was afraid you'd get used to a good job that wasn't mine." Jonah set his palm on the console the way he sets it on our table when he wants to quiet more than furniture. "Stay," he said, "no theater, some mercy. But be a student. If me asks what the comp bus is for, don't say making it loud. Say making the path available. Can you do that?" "I can try," I said my polite yes. The second half began the way second halves should. Someone gave me a tool I hadn't earned. "Want to ride the talkback mute?" me asked, crooking a finger. "We need a quiet hand and ordinary breathing." She pointed at a small square button as if it were a shy animal. "Push to talk. Don't narrate. If you think of a joke, swallow once and it will go away." I did not ruin the night. The talkback bleeped only when it needed to. The drummer wanted more me. I pressed a button that fixed none of history. The singer wanted another take. I remembered that permission is currency and we had enough for tonight. "Gain staging," me said, more to the room than the record. "Watch your LEDs, green is fine. Yellow is not drama. Red is either courage or a mistake. Tonight it's a mistake." Theo turned a knob and made the face of a man who could win the wrong argument if he wanted to. Jonah breathed and turned a different knob. The meter flirted with yellow and decided not to kiss it. The room unclenched. "Comp on," me said. "Just enough hug to keep the shoulders from lying." The vocal bus compressed like someone had said please. The singer sang a line I'd met before and didn't hate this time. The drummer became the drummer he'd promised to be in the hallway. The bass remembered how to be the adult without being boring. "Quick exercise," me said after 3 takes that didn't bleed. She lifted the talkback and spoke to us as if we were all older than our haircuts. "On your phone or on the back of a track sheet, write 1 sentence for tomorrow. Not about the song, about you. It has to describe you without nomming you." She didn't collect them. We weren't 12. Jonah typed. "Don't type me so much, I open by myself." Theo wrote, small and neat. "I prepare the air," I wrote. "I'm learning to make the path available without proving I know the way." The drummer scrawled, "I don't have to be loud to be time." The singer wrote, "I can ask for another take without apologizing to gravity." Me nodded like a conductor who'd seen storms and lunch breaks and cared about both. We printed a mix to 2-track, and then to tape, because none of us had been forgiven by tape yet. The reels turned with the steady generosity of a craft that remembers when it mattered and still does. Jonah leaned back like a man who had set a bag down on a counter and remembered counters exist. "Want to set the outboard reverb?" Theo asked me, pointing to 2 silver boxes that told the truth more than they lied. "Plate, not hall, just enough for the edges to stop being jealous." I turned a knob and did not ruin the song. The consonants stopped shouting. The vowels forgave us. The room agreed with itself. Outside, the lot had the plain quiet of a page that knows what to do next. "You lied," Jonah said, "without a knife in it." "Poorly," I said. "I could have said I was scared, that your night might have a life that doesn't need me. Tell me about Theo without poetry. He proposes and then steps out, he said, zipping his jacket. He doesn't collect debts. Stepping out, I repeated, and the phrase tasted like cinnamon. Jonah took my hand inside his pocket, which is how he keeps me warm when I'm pretending I'm fine. At home, we put three things on the table, our sentences and a track sheet that said air is already helping me's hand. Let's write a house service sheet, I said. 5 lines, a staff. We don't have to sing in tune. Jonah found a pen and didn't pretend it was a metaphor. We wrote, if the calendar blinks, we talk. We don't let the studio decide our honesty. If a place outside makes us more alive, we show the other the door and say where the tea is and where the mute is. Jealous means look closer, not hunt a fault. If one of us climbs onto his mezzanine, the other puts a tool in his hand, a cap, a phrase, a fader, and a time to breathe. Once a week we hang something that breathes, image, label, sentence, without explaining it until we read it out loud together. In the weeks after, I learned to nudge a fader like it was a person who owed me nothing. I learned that red isn't drama, it's a misunderstanding. I learned to hear the difference between the kind of compression that forgives and the kind that tries to be apparent. Thea showed me how to leave EQ alone for one more pass. Me taught me to say, again from the top, as if asking for water and not a miracle. Jonah lent me his useful silence, the kind that keeps my hands from apologizing when what they need to do is adjust. I don't pretend a studio can fix what sentences break. We weren't broken, just poorly tempered, sharp edges, long proofs, compassion pointed in the wrong direction. The room taught me to wait. The board taught me to move at sky speed. The singer taught me that asking again is not a sin. Tape taught me that the past is not a promise. Justify, a word from the museum, became page direction again. Give the line room so it holds. Last night Jonah slid our sentences under the magnet strip above the sink. Across from them I taped a photo Theo had taken of the board at midnight, faders like a small, sensible skyline. The dog, the hyphen between us, walked through the kitchen like a professional separator of lines. We left the window open. February leaned in with a yes. Silence on the cue, Jonah said, grinning. Standing by, I answered. Summary minus the sermon. Don't confuse loud with true. Air is already help. Jealousy works better when you give it a job. Stepping out is not abandonment. Making the path available is not domination. And the same song, offered by different hands, doesn't tell one story but stories that hold each other up. Tonight the calendar's box is actually white. That means soup. Nothing compulsory. Try again tomorrow. Jonah rinses the mugs. I fold the towel. The dog checks the table legs like a repair person who knows when things are fine. Between the sentences and the track sheet I stick a small label. Here we make the path available without proving it. Jonah adds another. Here we say thank you. The kitchen catches a breath like a little control room learning to be a home. I don't compress the ending. I let it drift and hold. That's enough.